Okay, so we're ready when you are.
Okay, great. Then I'll go ahead and call to order the June 28th, 2022 meeting of the Oregon City Historic Review Board to order. First, I will ask if there are any public comments not related to items on the agenda this evening. All right, hearing none, then we'll move on to the public hearing portion of the agenda. There are two public hearings on land use applications scheduled tonight. Our role is to conduct the public hearing and to make decisions about the matter before us. In making those decisions, we must apply the applicable codes and laws and cannot vary from or change those laws or codes. Members of the Historic Review Board are to be unbiased. Before the start of the hearing, I will ask the Historic Review Board members whether they have any potential conflicts, such as family, financial, or business relationships with any of the applicants or with regard to the land in question. I will also ask whether any of the Historic Review Board members have discussed the application in question with any of the parties or have independent knowledge of relevant facts, such as from a visit to the site in question. Any member of the audience may question any Historic Review Board member about their disclosures. A staff report has been prepared for each application and has been made available to the public 7 days before the first public hearing. The staff report identifies the approval criteria that apply to each applicant's proposal. Staff has analyzed the criteria which are contained in the staff report. The quasi-judicial hearing procedure that the Historic Review Board will follow is set out in state law and the Oregon City Municipal Code. The hearing procedure steps are shown on the Historic Review Board website. Public testimony will be called on in the order it was requested in advance of the meeting. If you have not emailed city staff at planning@orcity.org to request to speak and would like to testify, please raise your virtual or physical hand when I ask if there are others in the audience who would like to participate. For the public record, please begin all testimony stating your name and city of residence. If you would like to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please state your mailing address or email address. Testimony and evidence should be directed toward the applicable approval criteria. If you believe other criteria apply in addition to those addressed in the staff report, identify and discuss those criteria and explain how and why you believe they apply to the application under consideration. Any person may submit written material while the public record is open on each application. Any written materials received by the city staff during the time period in which the record is open will be placed in the record. Written materials must be presented to the city staff in order to become part of the record. If you intend for PowerPoint presentations, reports, pictures, or other exhibits used in your oral testimony to be placed in the record, copies must be submitted to city staff while the record is open. If they're not given to staff, they will not be included. Any person wishing a continuance to present additional evidence and testimony or to keep the public record open to respond to new evidence must make that request before the public testimony portion of the hearing is closed. If the Historic Review Board makes a decision with which you disagree, any issue that you may wish to appeal must have been raised on the record for the consideration of the City Commission or the Land Use Board of Appeals or both. Without raising the issue on the record with sufficient detail and accompanied by statements or evidence that the city and all parties can respond to, the issue will not be deemed appealable to the City Commission or the State Land Use Board of Appeals. In addition, the failure of an applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions of approval with sufficient detail to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Now we will open the record for GLUA 22-00019 and HR 22-00005, historic review for a new detached garage in the Mclaughlin Conservation District. The subject site contains a non-designated structure. The proposal for the 576 square foot structure is required to be reviewed as new construction within the historic overlay, as it is a new structure over 200 square feet. I'll now ask each Historic Review Board member if they've had any ex parte contacts, conflicts of interest, bias, or any other statement to declare, and whether they visited the site. Board Member Stobie.
I have visited the site. I have not had any ex parte contacts or no conflict of interest.
Board Member Belknap.
I have visited the site. I have no ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest.
Board Member Egger. think you're on mute, Paul.
I have not visited the site, and I have not, I have no conflicts of interest, and I have no ex parte involvements.
Okay, thank you. And I have visited the site. I have not had any ex parte contacts and do not have any conflicts of interest. Does anyone in the audience wish to question any of the Historic Review Board members about these disclosures? All right, hearing none, we'll hand it back over to Ms. Reed for the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Blythe. Let me share my screen here. Okay, can everyone see that? All right. Looks quite odd on my screen here. Let me pull it there. Okay. This is again a historic review for new construction, a garage at 1005 Jefferson Street. 1005 Jefferson Street is not a landmark, or it's not a designated structure. It is non-designated, but it is in the Mclaughlin Conservation District. And the new structure is considered new construction because it's over 200 square feet in size. So the subject site is in low density residential zone here on Jefferson between 10th and 11th, where there is a public staircase connecting those two streets where no vehicular access is allowed there on Jefferson. So here are some site photos from the applicant. You can see the 1.5 to 2 story house, a driveway from Jefferson leading to the existing detached garage. I understand that garage may have been demolished already, and I want to clarify that because it's not a designated property, the demolition of the garage did not require historic review. So that that demolition was done with a building permit only. So a site plan here shows the footprint of the proposed garage, 24 by 24, which is 576 square feet. And the existing garage was similarly sized, but slightly smaller than that. And it on about the same area of the site, almost the same footprint. The proposal for a 3-foot setback is the minimum required for a structure of this size. So here are the elevation drawings. You can see it is it's a 1-story with kind of a loft space and a shed dormer that faces the house. And a single garage door is proposed. Some windows on the side, a few windows. So I'll talk about conditions regarding these things in a minute. So first, the garage door. So the design guidelines for new construction call for garage doors with a limit of 12 feet in width, 8 feet in height, and says that anything beyond that requires HRB approval. So the applicant has requested HRB approval for this garage door as it is 16 feet in width. And the image there on the top is an example of the style that the applicant is proposing. So I'm guessing there would be, rows of windows at the top with grids. The siding that's proposed is a fiber cement kind of shingle. So what and this is proposed to match the siding on the house for the most part. And so what the design guidelines say about siding is that wood siding or materials which have the appearance of horizontal wood siding are allowed. And wood shingles in secondary areas and for ornamental detail are allowed. And if non-wood horizontal board siding is proposed, a sample approval is required. So this is the sample in this case, since we are virtual. And I think we all are kind of familiar with this product. The design guidelines also say that a wide variety of currently available materials and products are acceptable, provided the resultant appearance is complementary with the buildings of the historic period. So I think the question for the board is, do you feel that this siding is complementary with the buildings of the historic period? Or does the board feel that because this is not kind of horizontal wood siding, that it would not be appropriate for a new structure in the district? So, there are some findings in the staff report that, can kind of support either way, or either decision. So I think that this one is up to the board to decide. Windows, the proposed windows material is vinyl. And so I want to be clear with the board that because this is this is a non-designated structure, the existing home, and vinyl windows could go into that home without any board review. So that the applicant would be allowed to put vinyl windows on that house tomorrow if he wanted to, or if the owners wanted to, without any sort of, the board, we don't regulate that because it's a non-designated structure. But for this new structure, because it's considered new construction in the district, the board can apply the design guidelines and require that the windows are wood or something more similar to wood. So what is conditions of approval that you might want to apply if you find that you would like the windows to meet the guidelines, are that any window material that meets HRB policies would be acceptable. And if anything else is proposed, such as vinyl, because vinyl would not meet the HRB policies, that the applicant would have to provide a sample for board approval at a continued hearing. Or at as part of a future application. So you could approve this with a condition, and the applicant can come back to request the revised condition and a revised window material. And secondly, that of course, no windows shall have simulated grids between the glass panes. That's just kind of a standard condition. We did receive comments from the Mclaughlin Neighborhood Association, and those came in this afternoon. So I don't know if everyone had a chance to see them. So I will state them aloud here during the hearing. They said that the Mclaughlin Neighborhood Association concurs with staff's recommended conditions of approval. We have no objections to the increased door size, provided the design features are implemented per the recommended conditions. And that they concurs with all of the staff's recommended conditions of approval. The Neighborhood Association also brought up concerns about the information presented regarding the garage, regarding the size of the garage downplays the size, that the structure appears to be tall enough for living space above, and that it could be an ADU. I think they mentioned, I want to clarify that the use of the building and the presence of an ADU or living space above isn't really the purview of the Historic Review Board. If the board finds that the design and form of the building is acceptable, then the use within it is kind of irrelevant. And ADUs are permitted in this zone regardless. The last bullet there, the garage has been removed already, but this is not noted in the application. I'm not sure what the timing of the removal of the structure was, but again, Historic Review was not required for that. And the building department indicated that a permit was obtained for that demolition. So the recommended conditions, or conditions for your consideration include that the instead of the cement, fiber cement shingles or panels, that the applicant shall use horizontal board siding with 4 to 6 inch reveal, either smooth fiber cement or wood material. And again, that's kind of based on what the board's finding is about that siding that's proposed. Number 2, that the garage door shall be installed to resemble a carriage door with following details: simulated hinges, dual handles, and vertical or cross panels with or without windows. Slider windows are not permitted. There were a few slider windows in the drawings. So this is just a clarification that only casement awning, single or double hung or fixed windows would be permitted. Number 4, that the window material needs to meet the HRB policies. That the applicant shall provide a sample for board approval through a separate application if these vinyl windows are proposed. And that no windows shall have simulated grids. So the board's options tonight, these are pretty standard, what you usually see. You can approve with the recommended conditions, you can revise the conditions, you can deny, revise the findings, or you can continue the hearing until a date certain. Any questions for staff? All right, and during the applicant's presentation, I'm happy to share my screen if you want to display any of these slides while you're talking, just let me know.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Now we'll go to the public testimony portion. As a reminder, the applicant will have up to 15 minutes. Representatives of recognized neighborhood associations, government agencies, or other public interest organizations will have up to 5 minutes, and individuals will have up to 3 minutes, and then the applicant will have up to 5 minutes for a rebuttal. So we'll go ahead and invite the applicant. You can state your name and place of residence. And again, you'll have up to 15 minutes, though of course you don't have to use all of
that. I'm Monica Wright. I live at 1005 Jefferson Street. I don't really know what else to say that wasn't covered. We're perfectly happy to use whatever windows. I will use like whatever's approved by the board. So what wood or the fiberglass, I think it was. We'll use whatever. We don't need to use vinyl. That's fine. So we will plan on using an approved window. We were just trying to cut down on costs on the windows. The perfectly fine to use like smooth hardy plank, I understand is what you mean. Like, so yeah, that's great. We'll use that as recommended. And
Garage door?
And the garage door, if there's any other questions, it looked like the city staff approved our like style of garage door. So it would just be asking for the 16-foot width. I think it fits with the building. You really can't see it unless you are walking up the stairs because of just the way that the garage sits. So it's not like people are going to be driving past all the time and it looks out of place or odd. And then I think that's everything that we have to say, unless there's something that I am supposed to say. I've never done one of these.
No, very, very straightforward and succinct, which is good for us. Do any of the board members have any questions for the applicant?
Only one question. It was on the windows on the garage. They are simulated divided lights. And so those windows that are on the, if I remember correctly, if you could bring up the picture, Kelly, of what those windows were at the top of the garage door. I just want to make sure that my understanding is that they simulate not, you can't see it on that one. It was not this one. Yes. Those,
Okay,
yeah. This then gets into that gray area of simulated divided lights. Kelly, what is your understanding about that?
That if the simulated divided lights are in the garage windows,
Yeah,
yeah, I guess if with that condition of approval, then they would have to choose windows that don't have those.
okay. I was just trying to figure out.
Yeah.
That we're consistent. Thank you.
Might be worth mentioning that we are open to not having windows in the garage door as well.
okay. Oh, yeah, I mean, we're happy to do whatever garage door. I was just trying to find one that met the parameters of what the historic review board wanted. And that is what I came up with, but I am open to whatever.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. If there's any public comments. All right, hearing none of those, then we can move to board deliberations. I think this is pretty uncontroversial. Any thoughts or changes to the staff's conditions of approval, recommended conditions of approval?
The only thing I would come back, I agree with you. This is pretty straightforward, and if they use hardy plank, horizontal siding, smooth, and eliminate the windows on the garage door, and go with something other than a vinyl window on the other door, I don't see any problem.
All right. Then are we ready to close the record and move straight to a motion?
Yeah.
Good with me.
Okay, if no one disagrees, I'll move to accept based on the conditions of approval that Kelly had included in the recommendation, but with the removal of the windows on the garage doors. And that's good enough for me. Thank you.
I have a question, I guess, along that vein. Would it be more appropriate to incorporate windows that aren't like the faux divided if they wanted the windows in the garage doors still? Could there be a way to do that that's more
Yes.
fitting in your opinion?
Yes. You know,
If that's, it sounded like they were pretty flexible, so I'm just curious where we would stand on that. Okay.
I think that'd be fine. So I think we can leave the recommended conditions of approval as is, which would cover that, and allow, if you can find windows that meet the conditions, leave them or remove them if you don't want them.
so we need a second.
I'll second that.
Would the board mind, just for clarification, so whichever especially since I'll be gone, since whichever staff person will be kind of inspecting this garage at the end, just so adding a condition that makes it clear that windows in the garage door are optional, if that's your intent, just so that the person reviewing this doesn't see that picture of that carriage style door with the windows in it and think that the windows were required because they were proposed that way.
Is it,
I'm
should
reading
have that covered though,
the condition.
with or without windows in condition 2?
Yeah, I think it's in there pretty well
Oh.
already.
Huh, you're right. Thank you. Never mind, I take that back. Okay, so we have the motion in a second. I'll call the roll. Board Member Belknap,
Aye.
Board Member Stobie,
Aye.
Board Member Edgar,
Aye.
Chair Blythe.
Aye.
Right.
All right, motion carries and the application is approved. So congratulations and good luck with your project. Hope it goes smoothly for you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So we'll now move on to the next item on the agenda. And we will open the record for Oregon City file number GLUA 22-00020, general land use application, and HR 22-00006, historic review for exterior alterations to an existing historic landmark structure, the WH Wood House. I'll now ask each historic review board member if they've had any ex parte contacts, conflicts of interest, bias, or any other statement to declare, and whether they visited the site. Board member Stobie.
I have visited the site, no conflicts of interest, and no ex parte contact.
Thank you. Board member Belknap.
I have visited the site, no conflicts of interest and no ex parte contact.
Thank you. Board member Edgar. Changed spots on my screen. I was confused.
I've visited the site. I have no conflicts of interest or ex parte contact.
All right. And I've also visited the site, have had no ex parte contact, and have no conflicts of interest. Does anyone in the audience wish to question any of the historic review board members about these disclosures? Okay, hearing none, we'll hand it back over again to Ms. Reed for staff report.
Thank you, Chair Blythe. Let me share my screen again here. Okay, we've got HR 2206, historic review for alterations to a landmark at 309 17th Street. So this property is on what we call Main Street Extension. It is next to the PGE substation, and then on the other side of the street is Highway 205 or I-205. And it's kind of in an industrial area where the former neighborhood called the Greenpoint neighborhood was really erased by the construction of the highway and then some additional industrial redevelopment. The one other house that's kind of remaining from that area is the now I'm going to forget the name of it off the top of my head, but the structure here, I don't know if you can see my cursor here, but I think the Hackett House, actually it's a kind of a Queen Anne building that's used as office building now on the other side of the railroad tracks at Washington Street. So this is really the last remaining residence building in this on this side of the railroad tracks of the old Greenpoint area that is no longer. So the structure was originally built as a house and then at some point was converted to some sort of office use. You can kind of see a sign on the door from photos from a few years back. And the current condition, this is kind of the current condition of the structure. Some changes were made without permits, and so the current applicant is working to correct that and is seeking approval from the board to kind of rework some of these changes that have been made to the building. So the proposal includes installation of, well, because you can see that the sides are all just siding now, panel siding, with no windows currently. The applicant's proposal is to install wood-clad double-hung windows on the Main Street side to closely match the original window layout. You can see a street view of the original window layout here, and then a drawing showing how those windows would be placed within the proportions of them, which match the original window proportions. Removing the siding panels that are currently on the building and installing smooth fiber cement lap siding in their place. The original building had shiplap wood siding that you can see in these photos. And so that, I believe, most of that has been removed already. And I believe the old windows were removed, and I think the applicant might be able to clarify that, whether if there's anything kind of behind that, those panels now, or if it was all actually removed or not. But I want to also note that the applicant indicated the porch and the front facade will be restored to look like the original that's shown in the photo in this presentation. And that the full restoration of it would meet HRB policies and would not require board approval. However, since this application is before the board now, the board is welcome to impose conditions specifying front facade details if desired. And so there are a few conditions just to kind of clarify what needs to happen on the front. And so I want to make that clear and make sure that the applicant is aware that, you know, restoration kind of exactly as to match the original in materials and design would be allowed without board review, and anything different than that would require board review in general. So the proposed siding here, we're familiar with this smooth fiber cement board. The proposed windows are custom made clad wood double hung. We did receive another public comment from the Mclaughlin Neighborhood Association again this afternoon. So again, I'll state it so that anyone who missed it can hear it. So it says the applicant and staff refer to photographs do not appear to have been included in the record. So I actually, some of those photographs were from the design advice session that you all had last month. So I actually, they were been in this slideshow. I included them in this slideshow earlier. So those are now in the record, and all the design advice material is typically part of the record. So apologies for not including that in the agenda packet. Number 2, the size of the windows to be matched needs to be verified. The application materials show conflicting sizes. Number 3, please include a condition ensuring the patterned shingles on the front gable are replaced. Again, that's something the board could do if you would like to, but the applicant would be required to do that anyway if staff level approval is desired. Number 4, it appears the unpermitted siding has been placed over original siding in some places. Recommend the new siding be carefully removed to expose the original siding and inspect the siding and any windows that may have been covered for condition to determine if that can be repaired versus replaced. Number 5, the roof line on the north section appears to have been significantly modified, needs to be restored to the original configuration. Here are the photos that they included. If the board has any questions about that, I can opine. And then the date of the construction is listed as 1889 on the inventory form. I think there are some conflicting dates on different versions of the inventory form, but generally we may not know exactly when it was built, but somewhere around that era. So the recommended conditions of approval are just to clarify the siding, the reveal of that lap siding shall closely match the original reveal of approximately 6 inches. That's my guess based on this photo of what the reveal was. And if there is any remaining siding, original siding on the building, then that can be measured and then matched with the new lap siding. Number 2, the front porch shall utilize simple wood posts, similar diameter to the post in this image. Window trim shall match original window trim width and include a sill and apron where documentary evidence shows these were included. So that would be, you know, on this front facade, of course. The front door shall be vernacular style wood or fiberglass, solid or half light. And exterior lighting shall be vernacular style metal fixture. And that those can be submitted to staff for review before installed. So again, HRB options are to approve as recommended, approved with revised conditions, deny or continue. Any questions for staff?
Maybe one question from me, that rear portion where the roof line is changed a little bit, is there, it looks kind of like I guess I maybe didn't do my due diligence, a little bit of an addition at some point. Was that removed or is that just the roof line that changed?
I can't tell from the photos exactly what's going on. I didn't notice, I didn't get a chance to go out there again today and look at this myself. But I don't know that anything has actually been changed. But yes, that does appear to be an addition of some sort right here. And maybe the applicant can kind of speak to that as well.
Absolutely. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you guys? Okay, good. So we did not do any modifications to the roof line or the back.
One second. Let me just confirm.
Sure.
Does anybody else on the board have any additional questions
sorry.
for staff before we go to public comment? Okay. Yeah, then, yeah, we're good to go ahead. We'll go to the applicant first, again, up to 15 minutes. If you state your name and place of residence.
My name is Brandon Hundley. I'm the project manager for Lamoda. Rosa Cazares is here as well. She's the owner and CEO of Lamoda. I live at 47575 Southwest Easterday Road out in Forest Grove. So our goal tonight is to reinforce the idea that we support the HRB, that we know you guys have the understanding and kind of the, you know, the context of the historical aspects of Oregon City, and we trust that, and we want to support that. So we're not here to try and make any significant changes to the building, anything like that. We want to move forward with the building so that we can create a nice space, an inviting space, and one that will last for a long time in the city, and also reflect the design and aesthetic that the city expects in that historical review area. As far as the roof line goes, we have not made any modifications to the roof line. Did not change anything to the backside. That was, it looks to me like it was some sort of an addition that was added on at some point in the building's history, but we did not make those changes. As far as the siding goes, it is a 7¼ inch reveal lap siding, or excuse me, shiplap siding. It's in pretty bad shape. The siding that was put over or was put on the building is actually put over most of the existing siding. So it can be removed and looked at. Our hope would be that we could just add the horizontal lap siding that we've proposed, the hardy plank lap siding that we've proposed, and the windows to go back into those exact same positions and sizes that were originally on the building. And those would be the only adjustments that we would make. The front porch would be rebuilt back the way that it was originally. And you know, that's really it. So we're asking for permission to move forward with those alterations, but ultimately we want this project to work. So we're willing to do what we need to do to make sure that we can move forward. Sure.
Okay, great. Any questions from the board for the applicant?
Yes. Are you willing to put the front detail that was mentioned by the Mclaughlin district above the front porch and restore that part of it similar to what it was there?
Yes, absolutely. We met with the contractor today at the site to give another look at it. And we specifically talked about that scalloped kind of look that it had with the siding above the roof of that porch. And absolutely, we plan to
and in the porch itself, chamfered posts, if you take a look at the pictures, you'll see that they're not just a square post, but they're been chamfered on the edges, and then they have a bottom apron and a top part to them, so that they have the look and feel of what was there originally.
yes.
Good. And the only other thing there was a back window that proportionally in the backside of wherever that add-on and where the questionable roof is, that is more, if you could bring up a picture of that side view, Kelly, the street view from Main Street. That view, yes. The window that's on the far left side there is proportionally not part of what would be similar to the original construction. So if we could get it into, make sure that whatever ends up in a replacement window, that it's proportionally correct for historic windows, much like what the other windows would be.
Okay.
So it's similar, like they could be 2 feet wide and 4 feet or greater height,
Sure.
in that dimensional frame.
Yeah, we can make that adjustment.
Looks awkwardly inappropriate.
Yeah, we can make that adjustment for sure. Actually, it would look better that way. I think you're right, that window looks a little strange compared to the others. So I think you're right. If we match that with size and width, length and width of the others, I think it would look better as well.
Yes, and the next question is the degree of difficulty of restoring the roof to the original design of that back porch area. What is your thoughts on that?
So, hi, Paul. My name is Rosa Cazares, address 264 Northwest Mclaughlin. I think that's just an angle. The photo is taken at an angle. There has been zero adjustment to that.
Yeah.
Other than a brand new shingles on the roof.
It appears like it's somebody had converted it to a straight shed roof design from so that original part does not look like it was a shed roof. It does look like a shed roof now. So, but I didn't really take a good look at that one thing, and I should have.
So I did go by the location today, and I could also email a photo that it's not a flat roof. It is still angled.
So
I don't know if
actually,
you can see that.
I
don't know if you can see.
Well,
it.
I think I agree. Now that I look at the image more, you can kind of see where there's the lower windows that are underneath the slanted portion on the side there, and then I think it's just the angle. You can't see where that
Okay.
Where the dip kind of goes.
is, yeah, from that newer picture.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can kind of even see it in this video a little bit. You can kind of still see that angle, because that would be very severe structural adjustments. But I don't know if you want a chance to speak.
Right, just Peter Watts. It's 1969 Willamette Falls Drive in Westland, and I'm an attorney and representing them. They had just not been familiar with the historic framework when they purchased the building, and the roof was in very bad shape, as were the siding. And obviously what should have happened didn't happen. And I think that they've learned a lot of valuable lessons. And I want to thank your staff for the patience that they've shown. They're willing to do similar windows to what were there originally, though it sounds like the preference of the board would be to swap out one of those windows for one that is consistent with the other windows, which are period correct. The exterior shiplap is something that could go over the top of this. The energy efficiency on shiplap is not great, and so as well as the structural on that. So if that were laid over the top, that could happen, or the board as proposed could happen as well. The shiplap, if the shiplap goes over the top, would match the one that was there originally. And I think we have enough shots of the front porch detail that can be replicated just as it was on that. So their goal is to have a airtight building that is structurally sound, but also that they now really have an appreciation of the kind of the larger neighborhood, not the neighborhood that's immediately adjacent, but kind of if you step out further, the larger neighborhood and the importance of fitting in with the historic look of that neighborhood, and that, so that can be replicated. So it's really whatever your preferences on the siding. We're open to either option. Either option we'd want to put over the top for that energy efficiency purpose. And then the windows as you want them, that's great. And the front can be replicated just as it was.
Okay, great. Any other questions for the applicants? Maybe one final for me, just for clarification. On the side not facing Main Street, facing the power station, are we leaving no windows on that side, or are we putting windows back in on that side as well?
So we would like to leave no windows. And the reason we remove windows, it's a compliance thing with Oregon Liquor Control for the safety of our product. So we will have windows exposed to our safe room with the windows that we're adding on one side already. So we figured if we could leave those, which are, I think they're maybe a couple feet from the power plant. So they're not, you can't see them when you're driving unless you are going into the power plant.
Gotcha, thanks.
I find that that's consistent. It's, with that power plant back there, it's it really is it creates its own problems, and for the products that they're trying to market, if it sounds like they're going to step forward on everything else, and make what we see right. That's a good thing. The windows on the backside for security purposes, to me, are not important.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Paul. All right. If no other questions for the applicant, then we'll go to any other public comments. I don't know if we had any. Doesn't look like it. So in that case, we'll go ahead and move to board deliberations. Paul, did you have any additional comments?
Oh, having rebuilt an 1880 house myself, sometimes you just have to deal with the siding that you've got, the way the cards are dealt. That was built, what was built there. So I just would love to see it kind of match up in the manner that where it doesn't detract. And so if we can get the reveal as close as you can get to the original reveal, and the windows, as you've described them in size and proportion for what people see, from the Main Street view and from the front porch view, and around, and the doors. Keep the doors so that they are that they have to be secure, but they need to look right. That's a step forward, and I would like to. I might take another real serious look at that back porch area, that roof design myself, to make sure. But from what you're saying, if it's not, if it hasn't been altered at a higher, some later degree, so let's say in the 1960s or 70s or somebody, they were doing different things then. That's one thing. But this is if I'd like to try to take a look at it, and it's like the rings of a tree growth. Sometimes you just have to examine it through. But where your windows are from inside, when you take your siding off or your barrier studs, everything you'll see what's there. And I agree with Mclaughlin saying if there is windows in place that are restorable, that from within the openings, that should be validated somehow, and if they're there and can be brought back. If they can't be brought back, then that's another thing. But if they're there, I would love to hope that they could be restored and put to use. My opinion, but thank you.
Board Member Stevie, any comments?
No, I agree with Paul on his comment regarding the front door. I mean, it's got to be safe for what they're doing, but as long as it's kept, it's a condition for. Just keep it as a vernacular style, wood or fiberglass, et cetera, but just be safe. You know what you're doing.
Board Member Womack?
Yeah, I completely appreciate the need for like safety and security of product, and that the view out that backside of the building is not all that desirable. As a building that could change hands in the future at some point, I personally would like to see this structure restored to be as it was. And then if there needed to be some sort of modification on the inside of the structure that maybe, blocked off those windows, for security purposes or for privacy purposes, from the store's perspective, then maybe we could do that as a compromise. And so it actually looked appropriate on the outside and then was maybe able to be utilized that way in the future if it were to change hands.
We would agree to do. That's a condition that your board feels is important. And then also if we learn your preference on the shiplap versus the other vertical board, that would be really helpful to know. And then hopefully we can give you exactly what you want. Some of the original windows had already failed. That was part of the reason for the water intrusion. And so those had to go out, but we're working with Par Lumber in order to have exact replicas made. So they will look exactly how they should look. They'll just perform better and they won't leak.
And we'll make sure that they have the same width for picture framing around them. So that picture that you see that Kelly provided for us, they'll look, other than that one window on the far left that Paul brought up, they will look the same as those.
Thank you.
I guess from my perspective, of course, I would love to see the original siding restored if that was possible, or the original layouts for the windows all restored to the condition they were on both sides of the building if that was possible. However, given kind of the pragmatic concerns of where the building is, the substation's not going anywhere. The replacements that you've proposed are high quality materials that will fix any, the water intrusion and rot and problems that were, causing the structure to deteriorate. So I think I wouldn't make those items probably firm conditions of approval, but if you wanted the A+ for, I guess, I think we would, love to see that happen and put the windows in on both sides and that sort of thing. Of course, see what the rest of the board thinks on that issue.
Right. We want to give you an A+ building. And so, I mean, it does have a power plant on one side. It is surrounded by modern industrial buildings, and you really can't see what that district looked like, but there is that Queen Anne house on the other side, and this is the cottage, and understanding that, it had failed. I mean, it had basically been in a state of neglect for a period of time. And so that's how the mistakes got made, because we just wanted to keep water out of it. But we're willing to give you as close, it might not be exact because, the building materials back then, I'm sure Paul said this to you, but the windows weren't always square, everything wasn't, like it was made by Par Lumber, but we're going to get as close to that as we possibly can. And we're going to give you guys as close to what kind of a working family's bungalow looks like as we can.
Jessica has a point. If we had a window frame where the windows are supposed to be, and I put 3/4 inch plywood right into and no glass or something, and I put it in, maybe painted or something like that, but something impregnable, but that reflects the window and its place where it was. So it's kind of like building a frame and then not just then making it solid.
We'll use the same windows that Par Lumber is making and put those windows back exactly as they were, because it's all OLCC regulated, and because that's state preemption. We're going to have to put that secure material behind those windows, but we'll do it. We'll find an attractive color to paint it, hopefully so that people aren't going to see it unless they're coming or going from the power plant anyway. But if they do, we'll try and make it as attractive as possible while staying in line with those state preemptions, state requirements.
That's
okay.
Fine.
Great. So I think it sounds like we have consensus that we'll add a 6th condition of approval, that the same style windows also be restored to the opposite side of the structure from Main Street, or the side facing the substation.
But made to with the compliance with OLCC needs for security purposes.
Right. That's what we would do.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, that would make me super happy.
Good.
Another question I have actually that just popped to mind is, I can't remember because it's been a minute since I was there. I wasn't there today. Are there street trees still near this structure, or are they gone? Because in the photos in the presentation, there are street trees, but are they gone now?
Let's take a look at we're trying to pull up a video.
No,
there are street trees that are there.
Okay. Along Main Street, or just out front, or where are they still?
I don't think those are trees.
Oh, those aren't. There's a tree right there.
Oh, there's a tree.
Yeah, there's a tree in the front.
That's all I took.
Yeah, there appears to be one large tree, and then there's one tree that is near the power plant.
Can't tell if it is.
You didn't take out any trees, did you? They didn't remove any trees, so it would have been whatever you saw that's still what would exist.
Yeah, I don't have any, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're on mute.
It's been a long time.
I'm on mute. Thank you. You did say something. Yeah, I just want to make sure that there are an appropriate number of street trees for, this side of exposure to the street. So thank you.
Yeah, so if you want us to add a tree or two, that could happen. The trees that are there now are the trees that were there when the property was purchased. So no trees have been removed.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Sometimes the power company has special rules about where you can put trees, so we want to make sure that I don't want to promise you something that PG is going to tell us that we can't deliver. So
No, that's fair. I know there are specific guidelines that of specific trees for certain sizes and power line heights and whatnot. So yeah, trees, that would be lovely. I think it just adds to the character of what will be a very sweet little house again.
yeah.
Kelly, is there anything we need to, in conditions of approval, do you think or do you have it all addressed?
Is that a question for Kelly?
Yeah.
Thanks. It sounds like the 5 conditions that were recommended you want to keep, and you want to add another that requires restoration or installation of windows on the side facade facing the PG substation. I'm not sure exactly how so it sounds like the OLCC security limitations would apply to the inside of the building. And so I don't know that we need to mention those in our condition. I'm not totally clear on that.
Kelly, this is if they could put the frames in identically to what they are, and as long as if it requires a consistent hard surface on the exterior over it to be in compliance, I think we need to make sure that they have the ability to put that hard surface necessary to be in compliance. But then the windows look like they're there and they're in the right places. And as much as Jessica said, if it was ever repurposed, they're where they should be.
So this is probably a question for our applicant. Is the requirement that it's a solid surface on the exterior, or is it that it's a solid surface on the interior from the showroom so that there's just no glass access to the product?
The requirement is that it's a secure room. And
Okay.
so we could put up the exterior windows and secure it from the inside.
Okay.
We can do, and then we try and make it so that a future owner could have windows if they so desire. Though it looks out on the power plant, so I'm not sure if they would really want that.
Yeah, just from an restoration of this structure, that would be lovely if we could have actual windows with actual glass, and then just have it secured with a wall or whatever on the inside.
So we'll have Par Lumber make the same windows that they're making to replace the other ones, and we'll put them back. And then the other thing that I heard is there was that one non-conforming window that Paul had pointed out, and we had agreed to remove that, change that window to one that conforms with the other 2x4 foot windows.
And for example, that particular window, that's going to be our vault safe room where that window is. So we have no choice but to really secure it, because anybody can just break the window, and that's where all the product goes in at night.
Sure.
So yeah.
Okay, so maybe that's the change to that window is also another item in the conditions of approval.
The size that Paul wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, the size of Paul ones need to be another condition of approval, I believe.
The,
The 2x4,
the size of the
window to the left.
the
The left
northern,
rear?
it's the northernmost window, I think.
It's like a 4x4.
Yeah, it's like a 4x4. It's, I mean, I just call it a non-conforming window because it's not period correct.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So the size of the northernmost window on the Main Street facade shall match the historic window sizes on the rest of the building.
That's good.
Windows, because there's
Yeah.
a larger one.
One larger window, yeah. The 2x4 window.
So just to, not to slow things down here, but does the roof line allow for the same full height on that window, or does it? It wasn't,
That window is going to be, that window can be put in, it may start a little lower on the wall, but that is, again, that's the safe. So that's, people are going to see the window, but they're not going to be able to, not going to be one of the people look in and out of.
Yeah, we shouldn't have a grant an issue.
okay. Yeah, if, maybe we'll just write the condition that the size doesn't have to be exactly the same height. I think it should maintain the bottom alignment.
See there, it's pretty much
We
the same.
we could move that window over to the south from the northernmost point of the building to gain some height below the eave there.
Yes.
So we could maintain that same bottom height and maintain that same height of window. I'm confident of that.
But
I mean,
I
that, I will, sorry to interrupt. I think that window, clearly it's a not an original part of the building. Like that rear shed addition is a clearly not an original part of the building. And so the window isn't either. And the window doesn't have, I would say, any the window doesn't have much historic significance as the other windows do. So I just want that to be clear to the board that there might be other options there for
Yeah,
that
it'd
window.
be great if we didn't have the window there, because that's our safe room.
But we will give you the window there if that's where you want the window.
It's an interesting question about whether just removing the window completely, if it's not part of the original building, is a more appropriate thing, and just making and then that would then lend itself to making the room that secure room that they need.
I
Yeah.
think that would, we have the Secretary of Interior standards about adding not adding conjectural features, right? And not trying to fake history. So trying to add a historic looking window in a part of the building that's not historic would kind of be, would go against that standard a little bit.
Yeah, I would be fine with just removing it if the applicant wants to remove that window in full to allow that.
Okay, that we can
I would
definitely.
agree with that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'll change that condition to the applicant may eliminate the northernmost window on the Main Street facade of the building if desired.
Yes.
All right, anything else, or are we ready to go to a motion?
I still like, I really don't think there are street trees there. Like, I feel like I'm like totally making things up in my brain, but I know that I just looked it up on Google Maps and they're there in the Google Maps, but I'm pretty sure that street trees have disappeared since the last Google Maps photo was taken, which who knows how long ago that was. So
There should be a date on that, on the photo,
let me pull it back up. I just
at
closed
least a
it.
year. Not an exact date, but
But I just, I mean, I honestly, I don't care what the date is, other than I would like there to be street trees if there are not. So could we put a condition that like have street trees installed like to standard, whatever, neighborhood spacing requirements are or something like that, just since I'm not there right now to look out
Is
and
that-
see it.
Is that something for us to decide as a historic review board?
Can we make that a condition of approval though? I feel like it's part of the like historic character, and one of the building requirements is to have street trees.
So I think sometimes, I mean, the board does for new construction, you know, make landscaping conditions. And, you know, if we're talking about a historic site that originally had landscaping and we want to restore it, I think it can be appropriate. I think the sidewalks here, I believe, are all curb tight, meaning there's no planter strip. So these trees would probably not be considered street trees, but probably just landscaping trees on the property. And so I think it could be appropriate for the board to require trees along the, you know, in front, between the porch and the sidewalk, and then between the side of the building and the sidewalk. You know.
We can totally do that. The only concern that comes to my mind about doing that is safety. Because those trees would have to be closer to the building, so it would create some space for some safety issues for employees or patrons of the establishment. It could. So
That would allow potential bad guys
hiding.
behind trees. Yeah. I work for a bank, so I know that's where my mind has been going most all night with this. How to keep it secure. But I
will
would
take-
agree with Brandon.
It will take a very long time for any trees that are planted to be large enough for a human to hide behind, right? I mean, how long? A very long time, right?
So the length of the,
Go ahead.
sorry, I'm gonna mute, I think I'm gonna mute everybody who's not trying to talk, just because I think there's some background noise. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I just want to say, you know, we're investing a lot. We do plan on being there for a very long time and make adjustments as necessary. As you see, we're putting huge investments, being right next to the power plant. You know, it's not as desirable place for a lot of people, but we want to make sure that, you know, we do everything possible. So maybe down the line, if we see how, you know, things are, then adding the trees down the line.
Because I would think the trees not. I see what Jessica is saying about the length of time and how long it would take to become mature trees, but I also look at cameras. Where can Rosa put cameras now that we have some trees in the way?
It's true.
So that's where again I'm conflicted on the historic versus keeping product, cash, people safe.
There are also there are street trees in downtown though, along Main Street, yes? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
there
there's
have been
trees, but there's
banks
enough
and
space.
banks and bars and, you know, all sorts of stuff there.
Surrounded by a power station and warehouses. It really is an industrial area with two homes in it. I obviously have never staffed your historic review committee, but I've staffed Westlands, and my understanding on the historical and architectural is that landscaping would only be spec'd if it was actually the garden, whether it was a English garden or whether it was some architecturally significant garden that itself was specified. That we would be trying to replicate a look. And there is nothing on, we don't even know who owned this. We don't even have any biographical information on who owned the house. And the consensus it was built before World War I. But there's not a lot for us to go on as far as what an exterior would have looked like. And what I can tell you is what we can definitively say is we didn't remove any trees.
Yeah, I guess my thoughts would be that looking at the Google Maps, the street view photos, is that the 4 trees that were on the Main Street side, to me, look somewhat overgrown for the space that was there anyway, in the sense that they overhang the gutters, probably we're adding to the deterioration on the house in terms of dropping, organic material onto the structure and the roof and the side there, and potentially, it's hard to tell exactly, and I'm trying to remember from driving by, but it doesn't look like that strip is very wide between the sidewalk and the foundation there. So don't necessarily want to plant trees too close to the foundation that could cause damage either. I'm definitely in support of having some sort of generally aesthetically pleasing landscaping, whether that's some foundation plantings or something, but I would think maybe, to me, what was there is maybe a bit much, or was, allowed to overgrow. Maybe it's, original intent anyway.
I don't disagree with you there. True. Absolutely. I just want to see something that will, be reminiscent of this home being a home, right? Because that's what we're trying to do, is bring back the character of this historic home. That's where I'm coming from. So.
Okay. So how can we capture that in a?
Is there anything, Kelly, that we could put in that would that's not, that just would mention the fact that I, to a degree, to me, that the part of the trees is not yet is the trees, but there's a balance element, balance to it, and whatever they need to be complementary, and if we could have a review where they identify how we could maintain some of the trees will break up. Also, not only are good for our health and air, but they break up the view, and it can be done in a positive way. So if they're, I just don't want to dwell on the trees to a point where it becomes this big issue.
So I'm checking another planning application for their site plan that they submitted. So it doesn't include any landscaping in it, but I will say that for commercial properties, there is a minimum percentage of landscaping that's required. Like outside of historic review. So I think that might suffice to ensure that landscaping will be in place on the property.
Excellent. I mean, that's excellent.
Be fine with me.
I'm okay with
Paul,
that.
you mentioned balance, and I think, I don't know if we can put it into the condition, but given the nature of the business, I think that balance is where it's appropriate, but also safe. Again, going back to that, keeping everybody safe. So I think that for me, that's where that balance is.
Yeah, so there's a minimum landscaping requirement of 10% of the property for this lot, and at a minimum, they would have to maintain what's there if they're non-conforming at less than 10%. So I think that that's probably, best handled through the site plan requirements.
Okay, great. In that case, then, are we good to move to a motion?
Yes.
And just to make sure to follow the process, since we went back to the applicant several times, just confirming there's no public comments, other public comments on that discussion. Okay, hearing none, so we'll close the record or the public record on this application, and then we'll entertain a motion.
How many conditions of approval do we have?
7.
We have 7, okay. But I'll make a motion that we approve GLUA 22-00020 and HR 22-0006 with the 5 recommended, actually, sorry, 7 recommended approval, conditions of approval.
I second it.
Okay, Board Member Belknap,
Aye.
Board Member Stobie,
Aye.
Board Member Edgar,
Aye.
Chair Blythe.
Aye. All right, motion carries and the application is approved. Good luck with your project. I'm happy to see you putting investment into the building to maintain it for the future and keep it as part of Oregon City's history. So we wish you good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
And it
you.
goes without saying, be safe, Rosa.
Well, for sure.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. So that concludes the public hearing portion of the agenda. Next, we'll move to other business, which there's one primary item, is the preservation grant request for window repair at 219 11th Street, the Christian Hartman House. Did we have a report for this one or?
Yes, I can give a quick report. So, okay. All right. All right, I think this should work. Okay, so we have a grant request for 219 11th Street. And this is a designated structure in the Mclaughlin district. And so they're eligible for the grant. This is a little bit of a tricky situation because based on just kind of miscommunication and lack of clarity, the owner submitted the grant application after the work was done. But they did follow all of the kind of procedures otherwise. So got 2 bids, submitted both bids, took photos, and the window restoration that was done is an eligible item, of course. So I checked with our finance department and others in the city to make sure that there would be no issues with us if the board wanted to award a grant here for this work after the fact, that you could do so with no kind of issues with finance department. So that's all fine. So really it's up to the board. It's your discretion. I know that the grant application, there is a portion of it that does say that the work shall be completed, needs to be completed after the grant is awarded, that the grant funds aren't available to work already underway or completed, but it's, this is your program, so you can change the rules or, make exceptions when appropriate. So let me show you a little bit more about, sorry, I don't have slides, but I have my staff report and grant attachments. So I'll just go to that. So this is the home here, the Christian Hartman House. So all of the windows are double hung, and there were 4 windows that were repaired by Jeffrey Franz. So you can see there were 2 bids, one from Chosen Wood Windows, one from Jeffrey Franz. And so some of these windows are on the street facing facade, so they are highly visible. And so the board kind of has 3 options, or a few options. So one is, just saying, sorry, the grant is not available for work already completed, and, you can apply for future work. You can award a $1,000 grant. So the project cost was $2,440. So the full $1,000 could be eligible. So you could award that $1,000 in this year's grant cycle. So the 2021, 2022 grant cycle, of which we have funding. Everybody else would still get their grant request, but the other folks that were going to get additional funds at the end of the year would get less additional funds, right? Because you awarded some grants earlier this year of $1,000 plus additional funds if available. Or if you want those folks to get their additional funds, then you could choose to apply the next grant cycle to this grant. So they would get money coming out of the 2022, 2023 grant cycle of $5,000. And I know, sorry, that was a little bit a disorganized discussion, but if you have any clarification questions, feel free to ask me. And I can also pull up the list of the grants that we've already awarded so you can see who would get what.
All right, very good. I guess my opinion is that so long as the conditions were all met and we had the multiple bids that would have met the requirements of the program and the work would have been appropriate and it would have been approved anyway, I'm personally okay with approving it retroactively in this case as kind of an honest mistake. I think I would probably support approving the $1,000 out of the current budget cycle, but open to what everyone else's opinions are here.
I agree.
Agree.
I'm in favor of that.
And
And
I
I'll
do
make the
think the
motion.
applicant is here,
Oh,
here if I don't know if they want to say anything, but.
Oh,
Hi.
yeah, please do.
Hi, my name is Fahad Ula. I live in 219 11th Street, Oregon City, 97045. So yeah, I did. Kelly mentioned that there was some miscommunication. I would have obviously applied when I didn't know the process. So as soon as I found out that Kelly told me that I had to apply before, I was like, oh no, I totally dropped the ball on that one. So yeah, my plan is to do all the windows, just restore them. I do like the old style looks. That's why I bought a 1900 like 1900 year house. So I was thinking of doing vinyls, but they're so cheap and just looks bad from the outside. So I decided to just restore them, even though it cost a little bit more. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I move to approve the, just as you said, Grant, I think it's okay. Let's make it happen. And $1,000 out of this year's funds and just make it happen.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, Board Member Belknap,
Aye.
Board Member Stobie,
aye.
Board Member Egger,
Aye.
Chair Blythe.
Aye.
Okay,
And
Thank you very much.
before we hang up, Kelly, thank you for all of your service and everything that you have done for our city. And I hope this works out well for you and Godspeed into the future.
thank you.
You've grown a lot over this time, and whatever moves you ahead in your life, you and your family, more power. Yeah,
Thank you, Paul.
I've made moves in my life, so what happens, it happens.
Paul is very anxious to get rid of Kelly, I guess, because we still got items on the agenda here. So I guess the very last,
Mistaken myself. Slow down, Paul. Can't agree with you.
we're trying to keep her around for a little bit, at least a few more minutes here.
Yeah.
So items 4 and 5, I think we can consider as one item. So these are the June 22nd, 2021 and July 27th, 2021 HRB minutes. Does anyone have any corrections, amendments, additions? All right, didn't think so.
Move
So
to
then,
approve.
yep, and I think we can just take a consensus vote on that. So any objections? No. So we'll consider those approved. And now we can go to communications.
Yeah, so I will be starting a new position with the State Department of Land Conservation and Development next month, after 10 years with Oregon City. So I really grateful to have been able to work with you all, and I really appreciate your dedication to the city. So thanks for everything. Next meeting, Christina will be back. So you're in very good hands. I don't think we know what the long-term plan is. But we have, I mean, Aquila, I don't know if you want to talk about the new hires at all.
Sure. Yeah. So we wish Kelly well in her new career adventures, but there's a big hole that will be filling. She leaves big shoes, I should say. So we do have 2 new hires who are coming on. We were in the process of recruiting for an assistant planner to replace our assistant planner who left in April. You may have met Diliana Vasileva once or twice, I'm not sure. And so we basically took the top 2 candidates from that pool. And so we're gonna kind of be splitting up the preservation duties a bit. I think Christina will be on point in the beginning here because she has the institutional knowledge and experience, and she'll be providing some training for our new hires. So it is important that we have a point person to be that preservation planner. So we'll be working through that and kind of identifying who that will be. And then just for your information as well, we have hired a planning manager, and that is Pete Walter. And you may have met him because he worked for the city for about 15 years before he left last summer. And so he will bring a tremendous amount of institutional knowledge and experience and just overall good human being. So we will be in good hands.
Well, Kelly, we'll miss you very much. It definitely makes our job easy when with having someone like you that does all the heavy lifting for us, and we just have to kind of fill up. But good luck with the new job, and hope that all goes well for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Best of luck. Don't be a stranger.
Thanks, guys. I do have one other bit of communications, and that is that we'll be sending you some homework before the next meeting. So there more than likely will be one public hearing in July, and then a work session item for you may remember a couple months ago that you talked about the middle housing design guidelines. So we kind of went back and did a little bit more work based on your feedback at that work session. And so we'll have some homework to send you so that you have a little more time to look it over before that conversation, so you can be prepared to really dig into those proposed design guidelines. And again, this is for middle housing, duplex, triplex, quadplex, townhomes, and cottage clusters, which are, as of Thursday, going to be permitted uses in our good portions of the historic district zones. And so until we adopt those, we're going to rely on our existing design guidelines, which are fine. But I think adopting those middle housing guidelines will just provide further direction for those specific housing types. And then those guidelines the plan is for those to be adopted by the city commission at the end of 2022, when they adopt kind of the 6-month update to the middle housing code. Because there inevitably will need to be some clarifications and corrections that we make to all the code amendments that were just adopted, because we'll find the errors in the next few months and we'll have to go back and correct them. So we can also adopt the new design guidelines at the same time. And then you may remember the compatible change project that will also come back to you in the fall, so that those code amendments can also be thrown into that whole package and then adopted. So that hasn't gone away. It was just being slowed down by a lack of staff. So I think that's all. And again, thank you. And it's been great.
Thank you.
Sorry
Thank
we
you,
couldn't
Kelly.
be in person, but see you
I will
sometime.
blame Paul.
One last thing. Kelly and understands that the acoustics in the commission meeting room are terrible, just terrible. And this was really so much better. But I really get nervous when we exclude or make it more difficult for public to become involved. And I think that we have a responsibility to have the best abilities to attract the public for involvement. And I believe that the acoustics in that room, and until they're corrected, I just still believe that that maybe the Zoom meetings are appropriate. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, Paul, I think all of the city staff are aware of that. I know Jacob Wiley, the city recorder's been trying to unravel that problem and trying to get to the bottom of it, but I'm not sure where it's at. So it's not gone unnoticed, and there is someone trying to figure out how to make it work better.
You know, does it have anything to do with the new CLT that's in there? It's a fairly new product. Has the acoustics ever been tested on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they have brought in different engineers to try to help solve the problem, but I don't know any of the results of that. So.
Well, maybe we'll, pending a resolution on that, plan on continuing virtual meetings in July.
I agree.
I would like that.
Yeah, me too. It makes it easier I'm in Tennessee right now, so it makes it a lot easier to.
I'm in Bend. Yeah.
Okay, well, in that case, we won't keep Kelly any longer, and we'll go ahead and adjourn at 8:40 p.m.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Kelly.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Kelly.